Times when natural events hit the record books. Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Today we are showing you the exclusive times when natural events hit the record books. These events sometimes appear creepy and break all the records with their presence, and they are too hazardous, and usually people get killed with these events. Here is the list of those events. The longest lasted aftershocks. In 1872, a massive earthquake occurred that shook central Washington state. The epicenter was never located, and for various years, scientists wondered why Enschede, the town in that area, was experiencing the earthquakes after the 1872 event. It was over a century, and no one ever thought that there could be various aftershocks. The view got changed as seismologists began to discover the aftershocks worldwide that lasted longer than usual. Aftershocks are also famous for behaving differently from earthquakes, and some researchers gathered data on the 1872 earthquake, where some shakes matched the aftershocks. The phenomenon of Enschede is supposed to be the longest-lasting aftershock ever, and has been going strong for 150 years and still counting. The Lighthouse of Catatumbo. In colonial times, all the navigators used to rely on the Lighthouse of Catatumbo to discover their way further. There were blue, red, white, purple, and orange lighting. But this disco show was not from the tower. It was from lighting. Yeah, that thunder lighting. The name was given to exhibit Lake Maracaibo near it. It is situated in Venezuela, and about 1.2 million lightning bolts relish the place, making it a highly electric region worldwide. Some people also call this lighthouse eternal storm, and some claim that lightning here has no thundering effect. Well, Lake Maracaibo flashes about 160 nights in a year, but things get incredible after that. One can see some 280 strikes every hour, and this is because no-sound lightning is quite simple. Various people also stand far from lightning to hear the sound of thunder, but nobody ever gets to know why this is so eruptive. The popular theory suggests that lightning could attract uranium deposits, blending with methane in the surrounding or the humid air. The coldest cloud. Scientists are always excited to measure the incredible stuff, and it includes the temperature of the clouds. Back in 2018, they'd measured it for some record books. The coldest cloud in the world was hovering atop the Pacific Ocean and was messing around with the satellites. Indeed, that cloud was frosty, and normal weather satellites were unable to read its temperature. The infrared sensor measured this by a NOAA satellite, and surprisingly, the cloud that was part of a marvelous thunderstorm measured a temperature of minus 111 degrees Celsius, or 167.8 degrees Fahrenheit. This is all because this temperature was explained using a phenomenon known as infringing tops. This occurs when the cliff of the clouds overshoots the atmosphere's base layer and then enters the next layer in the row, the coldest one, the stratosphere. The Pacific cloud boasts an infringing top, but the freezing nature of the stratosphere couldn't explain why that layer of the storm was measured to be 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit colder than any other clouds. The world's most enormous storm. Next, we have the world's most significant storm on our list. So, we all know that Typhoon Tip is not a common name, but as the most significant storm globally occurs, this tip deserves mention. Raised over the Pacific Ocean, the typhoon became bigger and bigger into a super typhoon. It boasted 2,220 kilometers of diameter, or approximately 1,380 miles. It became the highest of all storms. Apart from this size, it also surged in unsurpassed intensity. The great news is that it lost a tiny part of its powers before slamming into Japan on 19 October 1979. The bad news is also that the power it lost was not enough to avoid any disaster. About 90 people got killed, and almost hundreds got injured in Japan. The flooding raised numerous mudslides and sadly destroyed 20,000 homes. The gasoline tank also exploded and torched the U.S. Marine Corps base, causing an injury to more people. Black Sunday. Earlier in the 1930s, people residing near the Great Plains in the United States were familiar with black blizzards. Sounds creepy? Well, it's a natural disaster, and this is a sand or dust storm that is so dense and darkens everything in its surrounding. But suddenly, in 1935, A storm hit 14th April with a surprising title and led to the region popularly known as the Dust Bowl. Black Sunday is like any other day, but since that blizzard occurred, it became apparent that it was different, and people started panicking. That dust storm was a massive beast measuring around 1,000 miles in length, and it almost blocked all the lights, including the street lighting. Families who got sheltered at home could not see each other even though they were in the same room. Previous farming lands got destroyed, various animals died, and surprisingly one man lost his eyes. People stayed inside their cars for various hours. After the storm ended, there was federal aid, but despite the offering of advice and money by the government, the families left the area and gave up farming there. That was really terrifying. London's killer fog solved. We all know that London is one of the most popular foggy places, but surprisingly, in 1952, that fog turned on everyone. Yeah, the haze that appeared in December 1950 stayed longer for 5 days and caused 150,000 people to get hospitalized. Since then, the hazardous fog has been a mystery for many decades, like where it occurred and diminished, but in 2016, the researchers again agreed that they gathered some evidence suggesting that the early suspect was the burning coal. Their tests and research showcased that coal emissions caused air pollution, leading to a chemical change in the weather that produced the fog blended with sulfuric acid. At that time, the death toll was predicted to be 4,000 people, but the actual number of deaths that occurred was 12,000. Various animals perished in the fog, and it was the worst air pollution ever in Europe's history. Smoke that lasted for 6 months. When the fire in Australia settled down in 2020, the relief was palpable, and the scale of damage in bushfires was intense. Scientists studied and researched the disaster from every angle to understand what happened, but gazed at some exciting things. The fires pushed more smoke into the atmosphere than expected, and it made a record for the most massive bushfire ever. To put it into perspective, something ejected much more smoke in 1991, and that occurred when the 20th century's second largest volcanic eruption occurred in the Philippines. The smoke produced by the fires also circled the Earth and created a terrifying situation. It arose from the eastern coast and arrived back on the continent from the west. The journey took 2 weeks with a speed record for an event. Smoke also stayed in the atmosphere for the next few weeks, and the 2020 fire plume stayed for 6 months. Beijing's sandstorm truth. In 2021, some gale force winds scooped the sand from the Gobi Desert and then moved to Mongolia. The massive sandstorm caused around 341 people to go missing and 6 getting killed. Then it later arrived in China, and Beijing, a city in China, faded away. The storm hit the skyscrapers and changed the color of the sky to orange. But the news agencies got it all wrong. This was not a sandstorm but indeed a dust storm. The difference was insignificant, but the reality was a bit different because the situation was alarming. Dust comprises tiny bits of sand that stay in the air for a long duration and can later be inhaled deeper in the lungs. This is terrible news, as when the dust came to Beijing, it increased the city's air pollution and covered the city with a thick toxic haze, the million-year rainstorm. The Triassic era was about to end about 233 million years ago. The raindrops started falling back in time, which led to a storm and lasted for 1 million years. This is huge and incredible at the same time. This deluge got famous as the Carnian Pluvial Episode, the CPE. It was indeed a mystery, but in 2020, some researchers found some suspects that includes volcanoes and climate change. Indeed, the eruptions were epic, and they left the lava fields stretching uninterrupted for various miles. The number of deaths increased at time, and the downpour killed a third of all species living in that sea. Meanwhile, animal groups and countless plants became extinct on the land. But the study also stated that CPE created a world that we know today. It even modified the environment where new species emerged, including the reptiles, coral reefs, trees, and dinosaurs, to dominate the Earth's habitat for the next 150 million years. So, these were the times when natural events hit the record books. What are your views on these occurrences? Did these terrify you? Let us know your views in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned and subscribe to our channel to never miss out on more videos we post. See you soon. Bye.